response to the table of revenues provided by ANZ, they like to say Z, I'll stick with the English non-American, consulting in a document entitled Within the Margin, which accompanied the letter, referred to in section B, and then D, response to questions raised by the CO. So these were all the responses. Now, under section C, it was a response to the table of, that's at 01023, response to the table of revenues provided by ANZ Consulting in a document entitled, etc. Yeah. And you'll see that there's a lot of criticism about the figures that were contained in the ANZ Consulting report. And some of those figures find their way into what we find in the replying affidavit, and these would have been obviously addressed had we had the opportunity in these proceedings in looking at the figures that rely upon in Model 9A. Milady, there are obviously also other flaws which Mr. Yusuf has identified in Model 8A and Model 9A. I'm not going to repeat the miscounting of the volume of please call me's. We've looked at that double accounting. He also looked at the question of the closing customers and not the average customers. Average customers was a more accurate figure. Milady finds that in the CO's explanatory affidavit. I won't take you there. If you could just make a note, it's CL 078-51.
Yes.
Where he says the average customers was the more accurate figure. By using the closing customer base, it would read to an inflated figure. So that was that criticism. We know about the call duration figures from the USA, which he used, which were 4 times higher. These are all criticisms that we direct at Mr. Machau's argument, and why we say his Model 9A is equally as flawed as 8A. We also, Milady, you've heard, sorry, just to give you that reference, that's the CO's determination. This is on the call duration figures. We're not as loquacious as the Americans, Milady. They talk 4 times longer than we do. I think Mr. Trengrove politely put it down to us not having as much free revenue to spend on calls. Maybe it's got, I think maybe they're more loquacious. But be that as it may, so that reference is CL 004-10, paragraph 6.3. And then his explanatory affidavit, CL 078-39, para 88.3, and CL 078-46, paragraphs 110 to 112. The rates levied on each call was also incorrectly calculated, and the flaw continues into 9A. He used a blend of, Milady will recall, contract and prepaid, whereas the CO says the more accurate way is just to look at the prepaid rate for the reasons that have been spelt out by both Mr. Trengrove and Mr. Cooper. That, Milady, finds at CLO 78-39, paragraph 88.4. So, Milady, in all the circumstances, we submit that the CO cannot be faulted for not wholesale adopting Mr. McCarthy's Model 8A, and now Milady's invited to adopt Model 9A, albeit in reply. It was demonstrably flawed, and it's been properly critiqued by Mr. Yusuf in his determination in his explanatory affidavit. We submit that Mr. Yusuf's approach was neither unreasonable, irregular, or wrong. He explains that Mr. McCarthy's Model 8A attempts to quantify a responding number of calls as its departure point, he preferred the approach which quantified the number of PCMs as the departure point. And his rationale, just to give Milady the reference, is in CL 04-10 to 004-10 to 004-11. So Milady, we submit that the review should be dismissed. Unless Milady has anything further to detain me with, those are submissions.
No, thank you so much for those submissions, Mr. Solomon.
Thank you.
Mr. Puckrin?
Milady,
Yes, Mr.
Milady,
Puckrin.
I do understand that your ladyship has made arrangements for us to be heard tomorrow. It is
Sorry,
3 o'clock.
Sorry, Mr. Okay, thanks.
Can you hear me, Milady?
Yes, and he was just from somebody else. Who's RS? RS, mute your mic.
Richard Solomon.
Milady, I'm sorry, I thought I had.
Okay, Mr. Puckrin, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Milady. I've been told by Mr. Solomon that I have a number of flaws. Milady,
Yes.
it is 3 o'clock. I will, and Mr. Micha will not finish this afternoon. What we should like to do is perhaps, if we can find somebody to do some typing, just get our thoughts on a piece of paper and the references to avoid your ladyship having to make notes. We will certainly finish by lunch tomorrow, and if I might ask for the indulgence of adjourning now.
So you're putting it in a manner where it's to my benefit, that you'll be given time off to type it out for your benefit, my lady, so that everything is in order.
Yes, my lady, I'm a quick learner. I saw the CEO made a 105-page affidavit to assist your ladyship.
Okay. I think we'll take the adjournment for the day. And can we resume at 9:30 as usual, so that we could finish off before lunch? We're not expecting to go over 12 o'clock,
No.
Mr. Puckrin.
The exercises are intended to abbreviate the reply rather than expatiate it.
Okay. Thank you so much. So we'll take the adjournment for the day, and we'll resume tomorrow at 9:30. Court is duly adjourned. Thank you.
May it please your ladyship.